Hello everyone and welcome to a very nice game from 2016. It's a Blitz game and it's from the Ultimate Blitz Challenge, 4-player tournament. Fabiano, Caruana, Wesley So, Hikaru Nakamura and Garry Kasparov brawled it out to see who can take it all. And we're gonna discuss the standings a bit later, but now let's check out this game. We've covered some of the games from this tournament, not this one in particular. It comes as a suggestion from Tux the Penguin on Twitter. So thank you for the suggestion, and yeah, let's check out the game and let's see why is it so nice to always be attacking in chess. So Fabi has the white pieces and he opens with e4. Kasparov, of course, replies with the Sicilian defense. He plays c5. We have knight to f3, d6, and now d4. So nothing out of the ordinary here. Captures. We have knight to f6, knight to c3, and a6. Kasparov goes for the Najdorf variation of the Sicilian, and h3, starting the Adams attack. Now already you have h3, so you have support for g4, later on for f4, and so on. You want to dislodge this knight, and well, hopefully black will castle kingside, and you will be able to do some sort of a kingside attack. So e6, we have g4, and now bishop to e7. And while you can start advancing the pawn immediately to g5, Fabi first starts with bishop to g2. But now Kasparov, just removes the knight f to d7. And now there's a problem. You can't really advance those pawns any further because there's no knight here. You cannot use the knight to kick it away and then just continue advancing your pawns. Now the queen and bishop guard all of these squares, so you've kind of stopped the white's expansion on the king side. So here, bishop to e3, Fabi just continues development. We have knight to c6, and now queen to e2, saying that he's probably going to castle queen side. Kasparov castles king side, and Fabi castles queen side. And as usual, when we have castles on opposite sides of the board, means it's going to be a pretty crazy game. So here, Kasparov eliminates the knight in the center, knight captures on d4, bishop captures, and now, well, there are some of the moves you could play here. Kasparov goes for queen to c7. Basically, you need the usual Najdorf moves, bishop to b5, bishop b7, rook c8, queen c7. Kasparov starts with queen to c7. We have f4, Fabi starts expanding on the king side, and now b5, already preparing to dislodge the knight with b4. And now the position has been reached before, and e5 is the move that's exclusively played here, opening up a discovery here towards this rook. Now you could move the rook, you could play d5, and then white continues attacking with f5, and then maybe b4, and who knows what might happen here. However, Fabi, after this b5 by Kasparov, played g5, and now g5, although it serves the same purpose, you want to continue your expansion on the king side, it doesn't come with any sort of a threat, so it comes without tempo. And Kasparov is free to do whatever he wants now, because it's different. When you play e5, the rook is under attack, you have to react to this. Now g5 is played, you don't have to react to anything, you can just continue with your own plan. And so Kasparov does. He plays the strongest move there is in chess, and that is, of course, pawn to b4. Now the knight is under attack, and here Fabi could probably still execute this e5 idea and then try to mix it up, but he decides to go for knight to f4, knight to a4, and now Kasparov shatters his dreams by playing e5 himself, and now Fabi will no longer be playing e5. And also white really wanted to play f5 here, maybe even get f6 in, but now with the bishop under attack, the f4 pawn will fall as well. So here, bishop to e3, captures on f4, bishop captures, and now knight to e5. Again, blocking this e4 pawn, and this is just an excellent square for the knight. Here, the knight controls so many squares. It's just a wonderfully placed piece. Here, Fabi goes for queen to f2. He wants to get, he gains control of the b6 square. He wants to get the knight to b6, attack the rook, and then shift the knight over to d5. But Kasparov will have none of that. He plays rook to b8, prevents the knight from going anywhere. Now the knight is still stuck on a4. By keeping this knight there, you're basically saying that white is for the moment down a piece. So here, Fabi just continues attacking on the king side. We have h4, and now Kasparov needs to get this rook into the game, so it only makes sense to get rid of this bishop with tempo. So here, bishop to g4. attacks the rook. Fabi needs to move it. Rook to d2. The rook will be much better on d2 than it was on d1. You kind of need to defend that c2 square. The rook is coming to c8, so you might have problems here. And here, Kasparov goes rook f to c8. You could go with b3 right away, for example, captures and captures, but it's although it's obvious black is better, Kasparov decides to prepare this with rook f to c8, and now he's ready to push b3. So Fabi beats him to the punch. He plays b3 himself, and now it's well, it's kind of different, but Kasparov has had many such positions in his career. Of course, he knows how to attack such positions. So here, queen to a5. You could go knight to c4 right away, simply weaken that knight on a4, and then go queen to a5, but Kasparov is very sneaky. He plays queen to a5 and now prepares knight to c4 while also attacking the g5 pawn here, and this is going to be pretty interesting. So here, Fabi finds the only good defensive resource, because other than all of this, you also need to worry about something like bishop to d7, just eliminating this knight, because the knight cannot move. Kasparov grabs the a2 pawn, and that's it. So Fabi plays the strongest move, and that is bishop to h3. But now Kasparov just retreats. Bishop to e6, saying that, okay, you can capture here. I'm just going to improve my presence in the center here by capturing f captures on e6. But Fabi now continues pushing on the king side. And now Kasparov has his hands free to continue the attack. And of course, he does it with knight to c4. Now attacks the rook on d2. And if you capture here, then just queen captures and your entire queen side is shattered, and it's quickly going to be game over for white. So instead, after knight to c4, we have rook to e2. Fabi just keeps the rook safe, and then now comes bishop captures on g5. Now the queen defends it, so there's really no point in capturing. If you capture here, it's basically game over. Just queen captures here, and now it doesn't really matter what you do. If you go king to b1, we're just going to play knight a3 check, and now after you move, just bishop captures on h3, and there's nothing you can do. If you capture, then just queen to c1 will be checkmate. And on the other hand, after queen captures on g5, if you go in the middle of the board, then your king is already in the middle of the board, and well, usually not the greatest of ideas. For example, queen e5 threatens queen to a1 checkmate. The knight is covering the d2 square, so one might capture on c4, but still queen a1 check, king d2, and now queen captures on h1, and this is sufficient for black to just dominate the rest of the game. So instead, after bishop captures on g5, Fabi grabs the knight here. And now Kasparov can choose to grab the knight here, but also he can just grab whatever. There are many things hanging here. So here he goes bishop captures on c4. Now, again, there's the threat of knight captures. Now the rook on e2 is under attack. So what do you play here as Fabi? Well, you could grab the rook here on c8, and usually... not usually, but sometimes the most obvious move is the one you should play. But maybe not here, because if bishop captures on c8, we're going to capture on a4. Now bishop captures on g8, rook captures on c8. And if you ask the engine, this position is a dead draw. But of course, in a blitz game, when you're playing this against Kasparov and he's attacking you, this is not a dead draw. It's very unlikely that you will be able to survive this. So instead, after bishop to c4, bishop captures on g5 was played by Fabi, but now queen captures on g5 with check. You could also grab the knight here. Kasparov chooses to grab this one with check. And now the reason why he did this, because there is one move that Fabi can make to survive the attack, but it's such an unusual move. And you can try and guess what the move is. So even feel free to pause the video and try to find this idea for Fabi while I give you a couple of seconds here. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on finding this incredibly difficult to spot defensive resource. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it's rook to d2. It's such a crazy move. I know that, but it works. This is the only good move for Fabi. Fabi played rook to e3 because, well, it's a blitz game, and even if it wasn't, it's hard to, spot such things. Okay, of course, you would find it in classical, but that's besides the point. So here, point is that after rook to d2, the usual bishop to d3 stuff would not work, because here you can just eliminate the rook, for example, captures, and king b1. You unpin, and now there is no captures on c2, because now the rook also defends the c2 pawn. It's not pinned. However, with the move Fabi played, rook to e3, this is now a bit different, because now you can just bust the position open with b3. Kasparov chooses the other move. He chooses bishop to d3, but now it's different. Now you don't have the rook also guarding the c2 pawn. And also, here the most obvious is the correct way to go. Here, Fabi needs to grab the rook, and after, for example, this is captured, find this c3 idea. But good luck finding c3 in a blitz game. Now, it's very counterintuitive to move the pawn in front of your own king like this, and there's a rook on the c file. But it works. If b captures, then you've closed off the c file. You no longer have to worry about that rook. And if something like bishop to b5, we just go after the knight here. Doesn't matter. Rook to g1. This rook to g1 is always in the position. For example, queen h6, king to b1 now. And if the bishop captures the knight now, rook e to g3, and that's it. Now we just win, because if g6, we're just gonna capture here, and after h captures, queen to f5. Now with a triple attack on the g6 pawn, we attack the rook here, and now whatever you play, we're just gonna grab here, captures, and captures, and now we win the game. Captures, for example, we're gonna capture here, and the queen will beat the rook and the bishop. But like I said, I'm only showing you guys this for fun. In a blitz game, it is, of course, impossible to see such things. So here, Fabi played a queen to g3. He offered a queen trade, but now it simply doesn't work, because now Kasparov just crashes through. Rook captures on c2 with check, king to d1, and now queen captures on h5. Again, with check, queen to g4 blocking, and now even queen to e5 threatening checkmate with queen to a1. So Fabi has to eliminate the bishop. Now the rook is also under attack, but now Kasparov just plays rook captures on a2. Now queen to a1, again the threat of checkmate. So rook to d2, Fabi creates a square on e2 for his king, but now queen to a1 with check. King e2, now we capture the rook with check, captures, and now, of course, we grab the rook. And now, if you look at this position, yes, Fabi does have a knight and the bishop for the rook, but he's also down some 5 pawns. So here, knight to b2, Fabi needs to bring his pieces now into the game to try and activate them somehow, but queen h2. Now you have to defend the knight, so bishop to g2, blocking the queen's check, and now h5, trying to get the queen away from the defense of the bishop here. So queen g5, and now comes queen to e5, offering a queen trade, and Fabi has to accept because the knight is also hanging on b2. So here Fabi grabbed the queen, we have captures, and bishop to f1 now, attacking the a6 pawn. Kasparov just advanced it to a5. We have bishop to c4, and here Kasparov just played h4, and it was in this position on move 40 that Fabiano Caruana resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. The reason you resign is because you can't really stop the h-pawn. I know you guys really like it when I finish the games, so I'm gonna try and do it in the shortest way possible. For example, if we stop the pawn from coming to h3, we can just play something like rook to c8 or rook to d8, doesn't really matter. If rook to d8 check, king's gonna go back, we're gonna go rook to c8, and now we're getting to the c3 square. For example, king b3, rook c1, attack the bishop, and it doesn't matter where the bishop moves, we're just gonna play h3, and that's it. For example, bishop captures, rook c3 check, we're gonna pick up the bishop here, and that's it. Now, the endgame is, of course, completely winning. Rook against the knight, it's unquestionable. Plus, you have all of these pawns. It's pretty much self-explanatory. So yeah, after this h4 move, Fabi resigned, and an excellent victory for Garry in this brutal Sicilian game, in the Adams attack of the Sicilian. And that's the thing with the Sicilian. You play the Sicilian, one moment you'll be winning, one moment you'll be losing, but you'll always be fighting. So yeah, once again, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank Akram the Pilot, KD Nuggets, Derek King, Jean Guerin, and David Kimura for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon. Continuing the coverage of the Morphe saga, checking up on your wonderful suggestions, and whatever else happens in the chess world. Next, we have the FTX crypto chess cup, where we're gonna have a lot of very, very strong players. It's supposed to be the strongest tournament so far, and with the biggest prize fund. It has $220,000 prize fund plus $100,000 in Bitcoin. And okay, with the current market crash, could be a bit less, but you know. It doesn't really matter. I think it's still going to be the most pricey tournament ever, but we'll see. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed that. Thank you again, Tux, for the suggestion, and see you soon, guys. Enjoy your Saturday.